Aloha, everyone. This is Chesapeake Movie Thoughts, and today my thoughts are about Halloween movies. I myself am not too into scary movies, actually. I know that there's a lot of people that are, but I also know a few people that aren't that into scary movies. But we do have certain movies that we'll watch us that aren't into scary movies. We'll have certain movies that we watch around Halloween time, and I thought I would just run down a few of the not too scary movies that are good to watch for Halloween for those that aren't really into the horror genre per se. So let's get down to it. Some of them will be kind of obvious, so let's take a look at probably the most obvious one first. I've got it right here. The Nightmare Before Christmas, which could also be watched around Christmas time, of course. That is, of course, based on the poem by Tim Burton, and it's about the residents of Halloween Town, skeletons and werewolves and zombies and witches deciding to take over Christmas one year and run it their way. And of course, it's a musical. It's stop-motion animation. You probably all know about this one already. It is a classic, and it's not half bad. It's a pretty good one to watch for Halloween. And like I said, as for Christmas as well, I tend to think of it more as a Halloween movie. It has more the feel of a Halloween movie than a Christmas movie for me. So I would more likely watch that one around Halloween. This one might be kind of obvious too. This one's Hocus Pocus. Now this one has, I think, developed kind of a cult following. This is the one about the Sanderson sisters, three witches who were burned at the stake at Salem centuries ago, who one Halloween, someone accidentally performs the ritual and brings them back to the world of the living, where they must prey on small children. But it's a family comedy. It's a Disney film. What's good about this is that it actually takes place at Halloween, and is from a kid's perspective. So there's trick or treating, and the Christmas and Halloween parties and things like that. And so it's a lot of fun. And the three leads, the three witches, they were played by Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker. They're pretty funny, actually. It's kind of a Three Stooges kind of act with the three of them. Kind of, so again, they're the big threat of the movie, but they're kind of comical, so they're not too scary. And of course, it's meant for families and with small kids. Anyway, okay, if you technically, this is a horror movie. Or actually, I'm going to show one movie to represent a good number of movies here. Technically, this is a horror movie, but it's Dracula, the 1930s classic Dracula, and I mean to talk about really all of the 1930s Universal monster movies here. These are. By today's standards, I don't think today's audiences would really find them all that scary. The black and white setting and the pacing kind of sets kind of an eerie mood, but nothing that I would think would really scare anyone. Not today. I hear that back in the day, audiences were quite frightened by these movies, but I think today you wouldn't really find these scary. But this is like where the Halloween that we know today comes from. It's like what do you think of as the traditional Halloween costumes? You think of Dracula and Frankenstein and the Wolfman and things like that. And Universal is the one that brought them to the public consciousness in these old black and white classics, and I really do enjoy them. And also eventually they go on to create a cinematic universe, and I guess probably more successfully than they're doing right now. They have with the first time that happens is with Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, a sequel to Frankenstein and the Wolfman, which kind of brings those characters together, and then they bring in Dracula, and they have another couple of movies like this, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, that's followed by House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula. So, I mean, that's kind of like an early version of the cinematic universes that we're seeing today, so it's pretty interesting for that. And then it kind of culminates in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which is like the last appearance of these characters. I don't think it's really to be considered canon, but I don't know if any of these really were concerned too much with canon. But that was... by the way, there's a little piece of trivia about Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. That was the only other time, besides in the original Dracula movie, that Bela Lugosi reprised his role as Dracula. He was played by someone else in the direct Dracula sequels, and there had been other times in which Bela Lugosi had played a vampire in the movies, but never again until Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein was he playing actually Dracula again. I thought that was an interesting piece of trivia there. Okay, we're going to go on to this one. Any Tim Burton directed movie would probably be appropriate for Halloween and not too scary. What I've got right here is Beetlejuice. And Beetlejuice was... It stars Michael Keaton, and he is hilarious as the title character in this, and it's got such a weird Tim Burton visual sensibility to it. It's so bizarre and strange, but not exactly what you'd call scary, but definitely Halloweenish, and really that's kind of the mark of Tim Burton's style. Everything is just kind of weird and creepy and Halloweenish, but not really what you would call scary. But this Beetlejuice has the advantage of having Michael Keaton and Michael Keaton is... I've developed more respect for Michael Keaton over the years. Actually, I've seen him in more recent movies, and he's been fantastic. And going back to these, he was in this and the first Batman. He was still pretty fantastic in these, and then in this one, his comedy shows through, and I think he did an excellent job in that. Okay, here we go. This is Army of Darkness. Now, this is the third in a trilogy. It's the Evil Dead trilogy. However, the first two movies, Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, are pretty much horror movies. They are pretty much scary movies. This one, Army of Darkness, it kind of ventures more, it kind of crosses the line and becomes more of a comedy than a horror movie. And it stars Bruce Campbell. Hard to go wrong with that. He was in the star for the whole trilogy. Interestingly enough, the first two movies, Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 2 was not a sequel to Evil Dead. They were telling the same story, so Evil Dead 2 was really more of a remake. So Army of Darkness becomes the sequel to Evil Dead 2. But there's still horror elements to Army of Darkness. I mean, like ghoulish makeup effects and things like that. But this one is lots of slapstick, lots of good humor in this one, and it's got Bruce Campbell and his boomstick. So this is another one. It's really funny and really appropriate for Halloween. Okay, this one is I'll show it to you. Here we go. This is Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy. This one is it's just an okay film, actually. It's an adaptation of the ride at Disneyland and Walt Disney World, and it stars Eddie Murphy, so it kind of tries to blend the sort of family comedies that he was doing at the time, which kind of like Dr. Dolittle, those kind of movies. it kind of tries to blend that in with the atmosphere from the ride, from the Haunted Mansion ride, and they don't exactly blend very well. But it's not a terrible movie. I mean, it has Terrence Stamp as a creepy butler, so at least it has that going for it, and also has Wallace Shawn in it if you're a fan of Wallace Shawn. So it might be worth watching. Or if you're interested in that idea, but you're not interested in the movie per se, another good thing to watch for Halloween is to just go on YouTube and search for a ride-through video of the Haunted Mansion ride. That in and of itself is a good Halloween thing. If you do that, I would say look for one that was recorded in 4K. Those ones tend to, usually if it's not recorded in 4K, it's so dark you can't hardly see anything in the video, from what I've found. So if you're going to look up the Haunted Mansion ride-through, look for the 4K ones. There's also some out there that will switch to night vision when it gets dark, but I tend to prefer the ones that are recorded in 4K. Now, even if you don't have 4K television, it still helps. Alright, sticking with the Disney theme, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. It's one of Disney's animated anthology films from the 1940s. This one has 2 featurettes in it, and it's really only the second one. It's only really the second half of this that you really would have to watch for Halloween. But it is some fantastic, spooky Disney animation. And it's the first segment is Wind in the Willows, and that's not particularly Halloween themed, but the second one, the Ichabod part, the Sleepy Hollow part, that one it's just some classic Halloween animation going on there, and it's Big Crosby performs all or most of the voices and narrates it and does the songs, and of course, it ends with the Headless Horseman scene. And since fantastic, not really too scary, but really creepy, Halloween kind of animation, but with the Disney kind of humor blended in there. Okay. Now, here's one that you might not have actually thought of, but this occurred to me that this would be pretty appropriate for Halloween. Here we go. Little Shop of Horrors, the musical. This was based on a musical play that itself was based on a black and white horror movie from Roger Corman. So I mean, it's got its roots in horror, but it's kind of left the horror behind, and it's now a musical comedy. There's a little bit of a dark musical comedy, but it's got enough of that sensibility to make it kind of appropriate for Halloween, but it's too goofy to be really scary. And it's a fun musical in and of itself. So that one is kind of the wild card recommendation, I think. All right, last but certainly not least, the one I'm going to cover. This one, Ghostbusters. Of course, Ghostbusters is fantastic any time of the year. This is on a number of people's favorite movie lists, myself included. So, I mean, it's again, not too scary. My parents will tell you, though, that when I was a kid and first saw it, I was kind of scared. But not pretty soon after that, though, it became one of my favorite things. And it has got fantastic writing, fantastic comedy, fantastic adventure. Got some kind of creepy, spooky effects. I don't think it really gets into anything that if you're for an adult would be at all scary, or for an older kid. But it is. I don't have to tell you about Ghostbusters. It's Ghostbusters. You all know it. You all love it. If you don't, well, to each their own. But I think it's a fantastic movie, and I know I'm not alone on that. Okay, if I left out any good, not too scary Halloween movies, then put it in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. Like, comment, subscribe, and that's a wrap.